Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another race update. We are getting tons of polls every single day, and we're seeing more and more of the same thing. And it is a lot of these national popular vote polls narrowing. And now we're even seeing the betting adjusting on the popular vote. Now Trump's sitting at around a 37, maybe even 40% chance to win the popular vote, when a week ago it was around 27%. He's up about 13% there, and all of the popular vote is getting closer. We're seeing some really weird Senate polls. I think the Senate polls in general are probably going to be pretty off, or maybe at least a little bit off in comparison to the national polls, although I guess we'll see what the final ones that get released are. Donald Trump takes the lead in Nate Silver's forecast. Yeah, so people were asking me about this like 2 weeks ago. I mean, this is the thing with Nate Silver's forecast. I think Trump originally was up. He had like a 66% chance. Then Harris had like a 66% chance. Then Trump went back up. Then Harris went back up. And I said, I think Trump will just go back up again. And now Trump is sitting. I mean, I think these odds are just, they're not really reflective of where we are currently when you look at everything and you take everything into account. I think Trump's got a much better chance than 50.2%. But right now, the way they weight their polls, that's how this is based off of. If they give certain pollsters a heavier weight, that's going to impact the model that they have in the formula. So they've got it basically 50-50. They have the popular vote share, Harris with a 75% chance to win it. They have her winning the popular vote by 2.5 points. I don't think that's going to happen. That's more than Hillary. Or it's about the same. So based off of the polling, it doesn't seem like that's very likely at all. You do have Texas polls that have come out. Trump sitting +5, Cruz sitting +7. A crazy outlier in comparison to what we've seen from Texas. Pretty much every Texas poll I've seen has Trump outperforming Cruz, not the other way around. I think you are looking at a margin of Trump, and I know people are very bullish on Texas being pretty red, like swinging significantly. And I've told people there's a lot of liberals that have moved from California, from some of these other liberal states like New York, from Illinois to Texas. So it's hard to really say Trump's going to be able to build a ton off of that 5.8 advantage he had in 2020, but it is a more favorable environment. And even with all that migration, if you're able to hold that off and win Texas by 7 or 8 points, like some of this polling suggests. I know there was a recent poll that people were talking about that had Trump up by 11 and only Cruz up by like 5. We're seeing a lot of different polling. I think in the end, you're going to see a Trump victory of about 6.5 to 7 in Texas, and then a Ted Cruz victory by about 4.5 to 5, something like that, when it comes to the Senate. Certainly, Ted Cruz is the massive favorite in the Senate. I've seen some videos where people are talking about like the Senate being a toss-up. It's just not the case. Ted Cruz is the favorite. He's got like an 85-90% chance to win. All the polls say he's the favorite, and he had a very, very good debate performance, whether or not you think that's a big deal or not. We've got this. Harris was never ahead, but now we are probably seeing a convergence of Trump peaking, Harris slipping, pollsters hurting more towards reality. Yeah, I agree. You're going to see all these polls, and they've already done it. They're all starting to adjust their national popular vote to basically be even. Now, as for the state by state swing state, I mean, the swing state polls are looking very favorable for Trump, even more favorable than the national polls. I actually don't even. I'm going to do a video where I go through with Real Clear Politics and update all the averages, but I know Trump right now is, I would imagine, still up in Michigan. I heard he flipped Wisconsin. He's up by 0.1 there. He's right there in Pennsylvania. I think last time I checked, he was up by 0.3. We know he's up in North Carolina. We know he's up in Georgia. We know he's up in Arizona. Nevada is basically 50-50 after he was down. And obviously he's up in all the betting in all the states as well. The only thing that's really holding it back would be the popular vote, which doesn't matter. I mean, Trump could lose the popular vote by 2.5 to 3. Somebody asked me a very good question last night talking about the shifts, and I think this is a bit more nuanced, but people have to understand this is not 2020. This is not going to be a thing where, oh, let's just compare it to 2020, where Trump loses in 2020 by 4 points in terms of the popular vote, but almost wins. So technically, Trump could have lost by 4 in the popular vote, but won the election in 2020. That's not the case in 2024. The reason it's not the case is because we are seeing shifts in states that Trump has no chance of winning, like in New York. Trump is going to make up significant ground on that popular vote in New York. It's not going to swing the electoral math at all because Harris is still winning New York. It's at large. There's no way Trump wins it, but he's going to make up significant ground in terms of the popular vote. So you're going to see that popular vote number decrease, but not necessarily the electoral votes. Now, I do think overall that's good for Trump. To take New York from a 23-point deficit down to a 12-point deficit or an 11-point deficit, that's what you want to do because that signals an overall shift within the country. but it's not this thing to where it's an apples to apples comparison. Well, if Trump loses by 3, the popular vote, he's guaranteed to win because look at what happened in 2020. That's not how it works because 2024 is different the way we're shifting in a lot of these liberal states. Even California is going to be more red by about 7 or 8 points, I project, in 2024 than it was in 2020. Illinois is going to be more red. New Jersey is going to be more red. Florida, Trump's going to run up a bigger number. Texas, Trump may be able to hold off and actually win Texas by even more than he did in 2020, which is remarkable based off of the liberal migration into the state. So, the math is not the exact same. There's scenarios where Trump could lose the popular vote by I don't know about 1.5, but he could lose it by 2 and still lose the election because of the shift we've seen. I don't think it's that likely, but I'm just saying this is not a drastic thing where it's like Trump's got all this runway. He can lose the popular vote by 3.5 and still easily win if we compare it to 2020, but it's not 2020. We're seeing huge shifts in liberal states. This is going to come down to how close the swing states are. It's the swing states, the Rust Belt, it's North Carolina, it's Georgia. That's what it comes down to. And whether Trump wins it by 1 vote or, 3 points, just like Biden. Look at Biden in 2020. They brag about that. They won by 0.3 in several states. They won by basically nothing after 4 days of counting. So you just have to win. That's all that matters. But I do agree, things are starting to shift and you're seeing it. You've got Emerson. This was a big poll. A lot of people were waiting for this poll. It is a high graded pollster, and this is a very, very good poll for Donald Trump. It has Trump down by 1, but I believe if you look at the data, Trump is really down by 0.3, if I have that correctly. So it's even significant. It's basically a tie, this Emerson poll, which is great for Trump. This is Trump would never have a poll like this in 2020, ever. There were some close national polls in 2016 towards the end, but 2020... These are really good numbers for Trump, and that's even with a generic ballot that gives the Democrats a +3 advantage in terms of the environment, which Gallup vehemently disagrees with, and Gallup is more accurate based on their history. So that's with a Democrat +3 environment. That's pretty remarkable that Trump is only down by 1, where it's basically a tie. If you actually look at it, it's like 0.3 from what I saw there. You've got this daily, people, they keep doing this tip daily polling. Daily polling is very inaccurate, guys. I would not take this because you look at like Harris +4, now Harris +3, Harris +2, now Trump's sitting, oh no, I guess Harris is sitting +2 still there. I saw this +1, but like this daily polling, man, I say the same thing with Rasmussen. I don't take it seriously. I look at their 5-day aggregate rolling average. I don't do the daily polling, but that is what it is. This is Emerson. So what is this? So yes, this is not, she is not sitting +1. This would be a tie. +0.3 is really, if it's less than 0.5, it's considered a tie. 49.5 to 49.2. And you see, this is exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at Harris +4.5 in mid-August. We're looking at early September, Harris +3.5. We're looking at October 1st, Harris +1.5. Now it's tied on October 16th. All of the national polls are starting to adjust and go back to just the net situation of it being a tie. And I think obviously that's great news for Trump. That's exactly what you want. You've got ActiveVote. I'm not a fan of their polling. This is another thing. This is a little bit exaggerated if we're being honest. Dude, I do think there's a way that Trump there's a definite chance that Trump wins the popular vote and possibly by even over a point. Now, I'm not saying this is like a great pollster or anything, but in general, just where we're trending right now, I don't know if I can predict Trump to win the popular vote, but I'm teetering. Like, I've got Harris +0.5. I think it's going to be like 48.9 to 48.4 or something right now. And maybe I have to adjust it and give Trump the win in the end. We'll have to see. This is not a great pollster. I'm not saying it, but a lot of these national polls, if the national polls are tied, odds are they're, at least based on history, they're slightly underestimating Trump, which means he wins the popular vote. So, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to look at more data, things like that. But this is getting really, really interesting when you look at all this polling. But the major stuff, I would say, it's all the big-time pollsters, all the liberal pollsters, NBC, CBS. You've got Emerson now. They're all condensing. It's all tied. The national polls are tied, which is great news for Donald Trump when it comes to the swing states. You would think the swing states sure are all going to be close. But even when we take a look at the swing states, all the betting, Donald Trump is up in every single swing state. You look at Polymarket, it is pretty crazy. And then these are just some things that we're tracking here. We're looking at the House control. So Democrats for the longest time had around a 63% chance to maintain House control. And you've seen that drop to basically 50-50. So it's gone down by 13 points. And a lot of this movement is based off of the Trump popular vote chances. If Trump does do well nationally in terms of the popular vote, that's going to help with the House races significantly with the down ballot effects. So that's really good news. I mean, you have Donald Trump sitting plus 20 right now. It is just crazy in terms of this betting stuff, how much of a favorite Trump is. And this was the popular vote that I was talking about. Harris had a nice, almost like 75-25 lead, and it's been cut basically in half to about 64-36 there. You can see the recent stuff, the recent moves, and that might even go a little bit lower. We're going to have to see, but that might even go a little bit lower when it comes to that. We've also got balance of power. The number one biggest chance is a Republican sweep. So Republicans sweep everything. The next highest chance is a Democratic president, Republican Senate, Democrat House. Democrats only have a 14% chance of a sweep because they've only got like a 10% chance to win the Senate at this point. I think the Senate is basically gone for the Dems. When you look at it, I think they do have, they don't have a national. What do I want to look at here? Yeah, I actually do want to look at Ohio. Let's see how Moreno is doing against Brown in Ohio. Moreno has gone ahead now by about 16, 17 points in terms of odds there. It's about 58-42. Doesn't surprise me at all. I don't think Moreno is going to do worse than Trump, but if Trump wins Ohio by 8 points, which is what he won it in 2020 by, now it's a way better environment. That's why I have Trump winning Ohio by 9.5. But even if he wins it by 8 points, is Moreno going to perform 9 points worse than that? It's very surprising. That's a lot of split ballot voting. That's probably not going to happen. You're starting to see polls that have Moreno up by 2 or 3. I've got Trump winning Ohio by 9.5, Moreno by about 3.5. I think that's what it ends up being. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.